So I hung out with Megan today because she was bored, and we went and saw Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. This review will be split into bits that are spoiler-free and bits that are spoiler-full. So be warned. So this first bit is spoiler-free. General overview of this story. It is about 4 teenagers who get sucked into a video game version of Jumanji where they are their avatars. So that's why there are 2 actors. There are like the teenage actors, and then there are all of the actors with big names that you know who are in the film. And they have to beat the game. Mm-hmm. Basically a very similar plot to the original Jumanji film. Now, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would put this film at like a 4. It was really, really, really fun. It wasn't like a beautiful piece of cinema, but it was very enjoyable.
I would also give it a 4. Gavroche, you're very loud.
He's fine. You would give it a 4.
I would also give it a 4, probably because it was fun, as Mallory said, and also, like, I just enjoy movies that are like this, where there's, like, a game element, and the end goal is to beat the thing and then everything's safe. I also found it interesting, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about later, but, like, the structure, because it was a video game, was, like, level-wise, and so there was breathing room between action that I thought was very well paced, and so, like, it wasn't like action, 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 action. It was like you knew that you were going to be safe for a little while.
Yeah.
And that was nice for me who doesn't like action movies as much as other movies usually. So I would say that as an action movie, this is probably like a top action movie for me.
And I would say that maybe some people would find it a little slow because of that resting pace, but I thought that it worked really well. The next thing that we're going to talk about is Jack Black. So Megan and I realized after a long conversation that perhaps we both like Jack Black as an actor. We just don't necessarily generally like the type of movie he's in.
Yeah.
So he was phenomenal in this film. This isn't really a spoiler if you've seen the trailer, but you know, if you've never seen the trailer and you know nothing, this I guess is a spoiler. Jack Black is the avatar for a female character. Like a teenage girl ends up as Jack Black. And I just thought overall he did a phenomenal job of like emoting in that certain way, like the tone of his voice, the physicality of everything, the bedroom eyes that he gave the other attractive men, and just in general, like that sort of like he's like the popular girl and sort of that weird feeling was really, really good.
I thought it was tastefully done, and I feel like more often we get the reverse of that, where like a man is in a woman's body and he's like, oh my god, I have boobs. And so her thought wasn't immediately like, oh my god, I have a, can I say dick on your channel?
Yeah, it's not a curse word.
Her immediate thought wasn't like, oh my god, I have a dick. It was like other things, and then we got there, so it was like, I don't know, I just felt like it was not gross,
but it was well handled, and it really felt like how a teenage girl would react.
Yeah, to being in like
really
a middle-aged man's body worked well.
I think we'll talk a little bit about bodies a little bit more when we get into the heavy spoilers, because there's a couple of thoughts about that. The last thing in our really spoiler-free section is Megan's main point of discussion. So if you've seen the trailer, you know that Karen Gillan is one of the characters. And she is like the classic, like Lara Croft style video game action hero who wears like a midriff-bearing shirt and tiny little shorts and tall boots.
Yeah, and like I was looking up pictures of her costume, and a lot of people, I guess, before the movie came out, were like upset that the one female in the movie was like this. And like, to be fair, I think the one biggest problem with this movie, which was accurate to like a gaming world but is a problem in the world, is that there was only really one female lead and 5 male leads against her. So tricky situation in general.
True to life for video games.
So a lot of people were upset that like the one female character in this male dominant action movie was like barely wearing any clothes, and I always thought like, yes, she's a video game avatar, and there's a way to address that and a way to not address that, and like I don't know which they're gonna do, but like there's a way to do this right. I'm not gonna get angry at a trailer. And I think they do it well. They all responded, like the movie makers, the screenwriters, the costume designers, Karen Gillan, all responded being like, it's gonna be fine. Mm-hmm. Don't freak out, but like, yes, she's wearing children's clothing. Her costume is also super complicated. Like, for the amount of clothing she's not wearing, she's wearing so much clothing. She's wearing, like, a crop top with 1, 2 harnesses over it. We've decided that maybe, like, the silver harness with, like, holes in it that's, like, mesh is maybe just part of the shirt. But if it is, it's complicated, and I couldn't find a video of the back of the outfit or a picture, but it, like, has this mesh panel that's, like, a triangle sort of thing, and then 2, like, t-shirt material, like, straps into the abyss.
Yeah, we don't know where they go.
We don't know
it's
where
covered
they go.
by her hair.
Because it's covered by the brown.
Oh yeah, that's right. The brown
So
harness.
unless
the,
it's,
like,
like-
weapon harness that has no weapons.
So unless it's attached to the weapon harness with no weapons in it, I don't know where those strings go. And you don't see them from the front. And then clearly I thought that was another harness, and that, like, there were maybe those same, like, t-shirt straps into a front bit, because there was some sticking out like it was a bra, but we think that those are maybe just, like, panels sewn on. And so where are those straps going? We don't know. If you have answers, tell me.
Yeah, we're waiting for, like, the more intense screenshots to get here so we can further analyze this costume.
Because, you know, if it's needlessly complicated, maybe I'll make a cosplay. Or maybe not, because it's too complicated. I need to know, do those strips defy gravity? Are they real? Why are they there?
Now we've reached the portion where we're gonna be full of spoilers. Lots of spoilers.
So leave if you care.
yeah.
Bye.
Or better yet, go see the movie and then come back.
Come back.
But definitely go see the movie. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is board game versus video game. So, in the original Jumanji book, it's a board game that these kids play. And then, clearly, in this and in the original film. And then in this adaptation, it's a video game. One of the big marked differences is, like, clearly it's updating for the generation. We'll talk about that in a second. But, is that when the Jumanji board game happens, the jungle comes out and, like, overtakes their home.
And the city, like, the whole place.
Yeah. And in this, they go in to the jungle.
So interesting, because in Zathura, the same thing happens, but it's their home. Like, in the Zathura board game, they don't get sucked in, do they? I think their house becomes, like...
Their house ends up in it, though. Like,
It's
'cause
just
in
their
space.
house, though, in space. Whereas, like... So I feel like they've shrunk down. Like, Jumanji, it was like, this whole town is a board game. Maybe the whole world.
Yeah.
And then, like, Zathura, they were like, this house is getting affected by the fact that it's in space for some reason. And then, like, this is like, no, none of that. They're literally sucked into the console. And then, like, when they win, because obviously this doesn't end with them all dying, getting stuck in it forever, they get spit back out of the console.
So there is the reason that it's a console game is because in a very similar vein to the original Jumanji, it kicks off in 1996. The board game is discovered because, you know, at the end of the original movie, it's still there.
Don't they, like, throw it in the ocean or something?
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
It
washes up on a beach in this.
And so it's discovered, given to a 90s kid, and he's like, board games, that's just lame. And then in the middle of the night,
It wakes him up because it's transformed.
yeah, because it plays, you know, the drum sound that the Jumanji game.
That was
And
my
so
drum.
he opens up the classic box from the first one, and nestled inside is a console game that he puts into his console.
That he puts into his console despite the fact that, like, 2 hours ago is a board game and it's magically transformed.
Oh no, she's judging, but I would be the person who was like, oh my god, it turned into a video game. I wonder what happened.
But, like, at least get a friend.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I wouldn't have played alone.
Buy yourself in your room strange game
Yeah.
that has
yeah,
magically
that's true.
transformed.
I mean, first off, clearly I would call someone first. But I liked the fact that they had changed it and updated it. And we were discussing, so it's a console game because the first time it happens is 1996. But if there is to be another one where somebody in our age discovers it, would it just become a cell phone?
Or, like, an app. Or what
Or
would
a set of
exactly
VR goggles?
be going on there?
I don't know. It's interesting to think about, like, what would be the next update. I thought this was a very logical step and well handled. One of the other cool things about it being a video game is obviously the avatars. So the fact that you could get different actors to play the same people, and I think that that's like an acting muscle stretch for people.
I think it's just fun. Like, it's fun as an actor to watch. It's fun as an actor to do, and it's fun like for a regular audience too. And so like I think it just has a lot of levels that it can be appreciated from, because obviously like from a writing level it's interesting what the character as an avatar needed to say and what the character that is playing them would say, because obviously they're not like sitting at a console speaking, they're like trapped in it, so every once in a while they just spit out things that they wouldn't say because it's what the avatar has knowledge of or would say in like the automatic
like scrolling text sort of thing.
But then other times they're saying stuff that is very them. So I think it's an interesting like balance of how to script that.
Yeah, and it was a cool thing to play with. And then we talked about like Jack Black and Karen, and they addressed the costume bit really well. Like, she's really uncomfortable. She's constantly like covering her belly, and she's like, I don't understand why I'm in the jungle in an outfit like this.
And it's also not like the hot girl. Like, the hot girl is wearing a crop top in 2017.
And ends up as Jack Black.
Or maybe this movie's in 2016, because they say it's 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's
in 1996, which is weird that this movie came out this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't help you.
But I think they do a good job of, like, they didn't make the girl who's wearing a crop top in real life the, like, sexy avatar. They made
this movie exist before Trump. That's why.
Whoa.
It's 2016.
Whoa. We're just gonna breeze past that. They made, like, the nerdy girl be the hot avatar so she could gain confidence, and it was sweet.
Yeah, and like the jock becomes like the tiny little guy, and the nerd becomes
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah. And they all get those like body moments which I enjoy. Like when he's like The Rock and he's like, what? He's like, oh my god, my hair, what happened to my
what? Oh. I also thought it was interesting that near the end of the movie he was like, I don't want to leave. I like being like this. And then very quickly was like, I guess it's fine.
Well, because the girl was like, yeah, but I'm going to go. And
that moment seemed like it maybe didn't need to be there.
I agree
for
with
me.
you.
I wasn't a huge fan of that moment. If I
would have been a fan of that moment if they'd stayed.
Or like if he had stayed for a little while, even if we had just like cut to her freaking out that she had left him and that he was maybe going to stay. And then they had like the reunion moment actually in the like AV room, but instead of like having a moment where they were all like, we're alive, it seemed like they were all just like, okay, cool, let's walk down the street. These are the four of them. Let's walk down the street. Reunited with Alex. Great day. Gonna go our separate ways for the weekend.
Yeah, that is. It was kind
of strange. What? Like, we only had the budget for like the road that one time and like the school.
And also keep in mind too, though, that reunion scene of them walking down the street is not immediately after. It is, they go to detention on Friday. They're supposed to have a detention again on Saturday. But day they're coming back is Monday.
Do they have detention on Saturday? They didn't unstaple like any of those magazines.
Yeah, that's true. That was their detention.
So how do they, like, the detention bit is very clearly a device to like get them all in the same room with this game and then never touched again.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I don't know how I feel about as far as like just tie it up.
Yeah, they could have come back to detention pretty easily at the end. I did like, back to the video game bit, I really, no, that's fine. I liked that they played on a lot of the video game tropes. Megan mentioned levels, so like there's the level and then there are like safe zones where you're safe and you can just like relax. And I thought that was really cool. And I really loved the NPCs.
Who would just say what they were scripted to say, and then the characters would be like, oh, awesome, like, so why is this happening? And they'd be like,
it's very nice to meet you.
But why is this happening?
It's very nice to meet you.
But why?
You're Megan. It's very nice to meet you. Like, it was great.
Especially the kid who just, like, ignored the four players, which to me, because it seemed like a game that if you were playing as just one person, like you'd play as Braveheart.
Yeah.
So, is his name Braveheart?
No, it's not Braveheart. But it's something like that.
Brave Cave.
I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
If you're playing as Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you would play as him if you were just playing by yourself, is what it felt like, especially in that scene where he was like, oh, you're blah, blah, blah. It's nice to meet you. Jumanji needs you. And then whenever someone else talked to him, he was like, you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's very nice to meet you. And I just thought that was funny. I also thought, though, that was, like, incongruent with the fact that the top, like, human was the pilot and that was the one that he had picked.
See, and I wonder, though, that if the top human was the pilot just because it had already been chosen. I don't know. It's tough to tell. That, what I'd say, is one of the things, too, that I thought, too. I was like, it's interesting that the pilot has already been chosen because, like, I feel like that is not the number one character you would pick.
I mean, if you're a video game head, like, sure. Why not? But I feel like that's the type of game where it wouldn't let you pick anyone but the main character if you were playing by yourself. So, like, I don't know. It's a magical game that doesn't want you to win.
Yeah.
Does Jumanji want you to win? I think that all the time. That's another video.
They also had, like, a classic video game villain, which I thought was, like, he was just, like, nefarious and interesting. And I wish, like, that's one of the things I wish had been played with more, because you got the inkling that maybe he was slightly aware that this was a video game. Well, not that it was a video game, but that, like, there was something going on with those characters. Like, no one else seemed to be aware of it, but he was, like, just a little bit. And that would have been intriguing. One of the other cool, like, video game things was, like, this strengths, weaknesses, and descriptions. So they have their strengths and weaknesses that, like, appear in front of them. And they also have 3 tattoos, black tattoos, that mark their lives. And they played really, really well with that, like, the 3 life idea. And all of their strengths and weaknesses sort of came into play, which I thought was really nice. I liked the way they were described. But what cracked me up is things like Jack Black's character. The reason that the preppy girl picked it is because it was Shelley Oberon, or Obadon, I don't know. And it was described as cartographer and curvy genius.
Yeah, I don't know. The game was pranking.
Yeah. But I liked the, like, way those different video game things played out. And I thought that they were well utilized, like, all of the video game sort of tropes.
Yeah, I liked that they used their lives sometimes, like, on purpose to, like, transport or be a distraction, because I know that you have so many lives left, so, like, you can die and we'll be fine and we'll get the thing. I thought that it was inaccurate to some video games, because in a lot of cases, you know, if you have the item that you need and you die, the item will go back to where it is. But
or sometimes, like, gets left where you were.
Where you die. But I guess there are probably some video games where you do keep the item. So, whatever. I also thought it was interesting that instead of, like, materializing where you had been or with the group, you fell from the sky. You wouldn't do that in a video game. A video game wouldn't drop you from the sky.
Well, but there are definitely, like, where you respawn, and what it looks like is your character.
Like a beam of light.
Yeah, is your character, like, beaming down. That happens in a lot of video games. So instead of, like, a beam of light, because they don't want to be that sci-fi movie with a beam of light from the sky.
Yeah, and I guess also, like, because the mechanics of this are different, because we're in it and we're seeing it from, like, an internal point of view. It's a little bit different. And I liked that they used that mechanic to their advantage, but I don't think it was super true to video game form.
Yeah, although I did like that everyone fell differently. Like, every time that Dwayne The Rock Johnson jumped in, he was like, BAM! I landed. And everyone else, like,
no, Karen Gillian was like, with one
the
fist
superhero
planted.
pose. And then Jack Black, like, fell flat on his back. And Kevin Hart fell on his face.
Yeah.
I think the one, it was pretty funny. And I liked the way that was done. So I would recommend this film.
Same.
Yeah.
Anticlimactic. But yeah, you should go see it. If you like Jumanji, if you like action films, or if you like the type of films that, like, have games involved in them, I think those are all, like, steady genres of like, you will like this film.
It's also pretty funny. I realized the one thing I forgot to mention in like the Avatar thing is you mentioned that often it is men turning into women, and in this time it was a woman turning into a man. And rather than like a lot of times when guys turn into the girls, they're like, oh, boobs. She did not think at all about body mechanics until she was like, I have to go to the restroom.
Yeah. No, someone was like, I have to go to the restroom, and she was like, I've been trying not to think about it.
Yep.
But so do I. And it's just like...
And then they have this awkward moment where she's like, what do you do? And I thought that was, well, I found it really, really funny.
I thought it was funny,
well
but I
played.
had to pee at the time. And then I went and peed.
And I thought that it was well played. And I also, there's just this bit where she's like, this is so much easier.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I also thought her brand of humor was very often like social media based, because she's like a social media chick, and I just kind of wonder how much that'll date the film. I know it's a big like no in contemporary literature, like YA contemporary literature. That's a big criticism that a lot of people have, is when like social media or pop culture are heavily mentioned. And so I wonder
I feel
if
like
this
it
will date the film.
works in film differently though, because like for some reason people expect books to be timeless, but no one hates Back to the Future because like it's set in a 2017 that didn't exist. Like people still go see that because it's like a time capsule of what the 80s
but
were like.
there aren't like a bunch of movies that mention MySpace really heavily, and if there were, we'd make fun of them. So I feel like there's gonna be a time,
Well,
which
we're just
doesn't
not, like-
bother me at all, but I feel like there'll be a time where someone will watch this movie and be like, Instagram, remember that? And some like youngster will be like, what's that? And like,
I feel like it'll have to
confusing.
get like far enough removed where people are gonna be like, oh, Instagram, that's a piece of history.
Yeah, so I feel like there'll be that awkward period where people are like, they maybe shouldn't have mentioned that. Ooh, this really dates
Yeah,
this
that's
film.
true. That might be a little
Blah,
bit.
blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't bother me.
But it doesn't bother me
But it's
either.
interesting.
Yeah. All right. This is probably rambled on way longer than intended.
Not as long as an Andrew thing.
All right.
I feel fine.
No, I feel good too. We had a good discussion. Let us know if you've seen the Jumanji movie and what you think. Please leave a comment. I love comments. And I'll see you tomorrow.